Sup, freaks? It's your boy Marty Bent here to introduce this week's sponsor. I think you may have heard of them. We've been talking about them a lot. The Cash App. They're helping us stack sats, particularly on Saturdays, but any day you want. Cash App has been the #1 finance app in the App Store for the last 2 years. It's the first P2P payments app to allow you freaks to stack sats and buy Bitcoin. It's also got the Boost program. I've been talking about the Boost program a lot. They added some new boosts this week, including DoorDash and Popeyes, I noticed, two very, very quality Boost. I use my Boost card every day. What you do, you download the Cash App, you sign up for the Boost program, you customize your Boost card with a little signature, with a little Bitcoin sign, a little lightning sign, whatever it may be. They send you the card, you turn the Boost on, you go to the merchant, you spend it, you spend some money, and you get cash back. So it's an incredible program. We're big fans of the Cash App here. Go to your local app store and download the Cash App today and start stacking sats. Start using those boosts. Start saving money. Start developing the low time preference that we talk a lot about on this podcast. Hope you freaks enjoy this conversation that Matt and I had with John Carvalho from Bitrefill. John is somebody who I have immense amount of respect for and somebody I have been following on Twitter for years. And this was an extremely fun conversation. I think you guys are going to love it. And check out what Bitrefill's been doing lately. Those guys are doing some incredible work. Cheers.
From the Crypt.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. You're listening to a haggard Uncle Marty here. It's been a long week. It was a long night last night. We've got a great group discussion here to recap the week and dive into a little Bitcoin history with a very fascinating person, somebody I've been following for a while. Very pumped to have him in the studio. I'd like to introduce you freaks to the Chief Communication Officer of Bitrefill, John Carvalho. John, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming through, dude. We've also got Matt Odell here.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. You are somebody I've been following on Twitter for a while. Like I said, somebody who's very principled in the space and is building cool things at Bitrefill. Before we get into all the shit that went down this week and what you're doing at Bitrefill, as is par for the course here, how the hell did you find Bitcoin? What sort of drew you to this rabbit hole?
I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure that it was an article about Silk Road. It was late 2012 sometime in the fall, and I was like started reading about it, and I was like, wait, people are safely buying drugs on the internet, and I have to see what's going on here. So I bought a little Bitcoin, and then I like started digging into the forums and digging into the IRC rooms, and just like it just like sucked me in, you know, and like the whole community aspect of it, the whole like thinking about all the different disciplines you have to understand with Bitcoin, like with game theory and development and cryptography and finance, and it was just like an endless rabbit hole of learning, you know, and I just find myself falling for 6 years now. So,
yeah, and now you're up at Refill. You had Exotica, which was a streaming website that allowed people to get paid in Bitcoin, specifically geared at cam girls. And now you're at Bitrefill. So what do we want to talk about first this week? Let's talk about the history of Bitcoin, or not the history of Bitcoin, John's history in Bitcoin. How should we take this?
Should we start with the famous Bitcoin Cash video?
Yeah, let's start with that. So for you freaks that don't know, John has one of the best interviews ever recorded in the Bitcoin space, in my opinion. It's probably about a year ago now at this point.
It was 2017, the end of 2017.
Year and a half.
Yeah. It was like October or so, I think.
Yeah, so a while ago now, but you
right before the big pump.
Right before the big pump. Yep. John interviewed Roger Ver about Bcash, Bitcoin Cash, excuse me. So,
how dare you?
This was pre or post fork?
This is no, because the fork had happened.
Mm-hmm.
The fork, I believe, Bitcoin Cash forked in the beginning of August, and so it was pretty young at this point. But like obviously Roger had gone like all in on it, and he was making it his baby, you know.
Yeah. Thank you for that interview. We got a great meme out of that. Roger giving the middle finger to the world.
Yeah, I was happy to give that to community. It was like, I remember beforehand, like I prepared questions and I like researched his videos and all his like current party lines and how he would respond to things. And I was like meditating in my room before. I was just like, okay, I cannot fuck this up. Like, like everybody is so fucking sick of Roger. Like, being in an interview and then people and the interview is just always like, you've done so much for Bitcoin, Roger, like it's, you know, nice to have you, and then like have some like softball Bitcoin Cash fork questions. And then I was like, and everybody was getting fed up with it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like do the actual Roger Ver interview people want. I think in the end but I did give them that, but I wasn't done. Like, he ended it like I didn't even get to ask half my questions.
Yeah, it was live, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It ended with him giving you the middle finger after you just kept saying Bcash over and over again, right?
Sort of. I mean, honestly, somebody made a cool version of the a cut of the video where they cut all the times I said Bitcoin Cash and all the times I said Bcash, and it's like I said like Bitcoin Cash like 14 times. And I said Bcash 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, I was actually trying, I wasn't trying to troll him. It just like, I was not trolling when I said, I think it's a nice name. Like, I thought Bcash was a better name and I was using it as a nickname. And there was kind of like a little bit of a trend on Twitter where some people were starting to like use it derogatively, but it wasn't quite there yet, you know? But he felt it was like, I'm literally taking the Bitcoin out of his project. So like, that's how he saw it, you know?
Were you once like not a follower of Roger, but did you ever like see Roger in a positive light, like early on in Bitcoin?
No. I had actually been making fun of him for a long time in you know, smaller circles and when less people knew, you know, that I even existed. No, I remember when he was doing. I remember it was like there were some people when I came into Bitcoin. It was like everybody said that these people did good things, but like I never saw them do good things myself, and I was like, have these guys actually ever done good things? It was like Gavin and Roger, and I remember like Roger's just always doing stuff I thought was kind of stupid. And then when he vouched for Gox, that was like the first major one I remember. It was just like, Gox, the funds are safe, you know.
He's got like a gun to his head, reading off a teleprompter.
I'm pretty sure he said like, I could promise you that Mt. Gox is solvent right now.
There was actually a meme with a gun to his head, like.
It's crazy how much has changed since those days. Like at BitDev, you were at BitDevs last night.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great meetup.
Yeah, that was cool.
Having Peter Todd, you,
those guys are all cool.
Bob McElrath, like just hashing it out, pun intended, over pull requests and stuff like that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy. Like last night at BitDevs, like the Bitcoin Cash thing came up as a subject, and I was like, we honestly don't have to wear it because we were talking about how we may soft fork Schnorren. And will it be as contentious as SegWit? And it seems like the market has decided in that whole saga. Is it behind us, do you think?
I don't know. And that's why, like, if you remember one of the questions I asked, which I was surprised nobody wanted to really, like, elaborate on, I asked, what is the, like, proposed activation method? And they took me literally as in, like, that it hasn't been officially decided because it's not that stage yet. But what I really meant was, like, what is the general, you know, atmosphere among the developers right now about the proper way to get a soft fork activated after all this, you know? Somebody else there was like saying, "Oh, I have like SegWit PTSD. Like, what's gonna happen?" You know?
I think we all do a little bit.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and it's. I interviewed Lawrence Neeham yesterday from Blockstream and asked him that question. And he was willing to.
I love that guy. That guy's awesome.
He's willing to put something out there. He was like 6 months to a year of miner signaling that they're ready, and then enough prep and acceptance from everybody seems to be acceptable. But it is weird. It's like, how do you put forward an activation plan?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad it's not my problem.
But whose problem is it? It's nobody's problem. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, that may be why nobody answered me, because I was hoping somebody else would do it.
Miner signaling kind of makes sense, and then because that's what we always did in the past. And then if miners don't fall in line, then we could take it from there, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what
You
I
like set a flag.
But if they
day.
do that one more time, it's like then at that point, why are we even bothering to include miners in the process? Right. And why don't we just like make everybody update the software and that'd be that.
Yeah, this gets into some hairy stakeholder discussions here.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think that, we're learning more and more that miners are just, hired hitmen. We're just bribing them to give us some blocks, and they don't really have any power. That's actually, I don't know if you guys want to get into too much with the reorg stuff. I find it to be a chore, but like with the reorg stuff, everybody wanted to talk about, oh, this is dangerous, this is possible, this is you can actually do this with Bitcoin. Stop acting like you can't, and what are we gonna do when somebody does it? And I'm just like, no, like, did you not learn anything? like like you learned nothing from UASF. You learned nothing from the fact that like the networks, like, you don't even have to go into the perverse details of how you could actually accomplish this, because the network just is not going to accept a network where they can't finalize transactions. They're just going to be like, fuck you, go away in some way. I don't care what the way is, but we'd figure it out. We'd just be like, okay, no, we're not going to let Bitcoin be something where you can undo transactions. Like, fuck that. No.
And on top of that, like, the coordination effort necessary to like contact the miners, like, people. Amir Taki wrote a piece in CoinDesk a couple weeks ago, like, saying that like Ethereum or Bitcoin's as centralized as Ethereum because it was possible to reorg, and that's why I was. Pierre said last night at the meetup as well. I probably shouldn't be doxing who was at the meetup, but I'm sorry. That like he wished the headline was Binance tried to reorg it but failed, but it was they did it. They did not try.
I kind of agree with that statement a little bit. I thought, yeah, that's probably true. Like, it would have been better to just actually show everybody one more time to stop. It's like sometimes I think about with Bitcoin, if there's like a certain inevitability with everything, and all of our like kicking and screaming and worrying is just like us like just being dumb humans with our heads cut off like chickens. Like it's like, and Bitcoin's just over there just gonna do what it's gonna do anyway.
No, it's true. No, again, like going into the coordination thing too. Like I do think mining has gotten more decentralized over time, and it would be pretty hard to coordinate with all the pools.
It's way more than like late 2017 or whatever. Massive improvements, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll say I have no way to measure. I have no way to know how centralized mining is. So I try to think more about whether it matters.
I mean, look at Bitmain, right? Like, Bitmain got absolutely clobbered. Right? I would say that they were the main centralizing force.
But that was like also like a
cycle.
narrative. Like, this is like all of the information that we were getting about mining and about like the Bitmain IPO and all this stuff. It was like fed to us through like people with like some kind of reputation, sorta.
BTC King 555.
Yeah, and like they're like feeding us this stuff, and like, why are we just believing it? I'm not trying to defend Bitmain, but it's like, I feel totally detached from understanding the mining environment, how centralized it is, how weak or strong Bitmain may be. Like, there's all kinds of like supply power issues where who can get time to get chips made and who can't. And it's like, look, I'd rather just figure out how do we make sure we think about Bitcoin in ways that we just know we don't have to worry about it. Like, it only has to be decentralized enough. We don't need to worry about like if there might actually be a significant amount of centralization that Bitcoin can handle.
What are the thresholds in your mind? What is sufficient decentralization?
With mining, like, I'm really starting to wonder if it matters. Like, I obviously you don't want one because it's just too disruptive if they misbehave. But like, as long as there are some miners that are going to accept that bribe transaction to do the reorg, that are going to accept the other one, as long as there are some miners that will accept blacklisted transactions, like, it's game theory. You can't risk going against the network if somebody else, unless you have total cooperation. That's consensus, and the consensus in mining is just more like hostile. Like, if you try to flex your supposed power in Bitcoin just is going to kick you off the network. And if that happened to a lot of miners, yeah, we would have some kind of issues with like hashing and getting transactions and with the difficulty adjustment. But like, we would adjust and we would be fine, and there would be miners happy to mine those Bitcoins if some miners don't want them. You know?
John, miners are the only full nodes that matter, man.
Yeah. Do you guys think that miners should or will run Lightning nodes?
That's a good question. I think they should, pools especially. Individual miners, I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, it works well for pool payouts.
Yeah.
I think that the way I see it is, I think if you have an efficiency to gain, you probably will gain it in Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin environment. And so like, they already have a node. They're already touching a lot of Bitcoin.
Well, that's the thing right now with mining. The pools run the nodes, right? So, unless you're like an individual miner, like at your house, but like most of mining is done via pools. And right now with the Stratum protocol, like that dictates that the pool operator runs the node.
Mhm.
That's actually something I've been talking about with Matt Carvalho a lot, is because this is better hash proposal, and
Yeah.
so if that comes to fruition, the individual miners are going to have to run nodes, and that is actually like a hurdle we're going to have to get over, because apparently not all miners are like as technically apt as some people would assume, and not all of them would be able to run a full node.
Yeah, but if we have that situation, then it makes that whole reorg situation even harder.
Yeah, exactly.
And like also like pools, like people point at them as if they're centralization, but like if a pool, I've said before many times in other podcasts, any attack on Bitcoin is a glass hammer. Like you can break somebody's face with a glass hammer, you're gonna break the hammer too, and you won't get to do it again. So as soon as you like flex any power you have of your centralization over the network will see you doing it. Like, because it won't be worth doing anything unless it's something that they can see. Like, it's just the way it works out. Like, you will undo a transaction, you will double spend, you will, you will fuck up with somebody's money, and they will complain and they will notice, and then the network will try to kick you out in some way or another.
Did you remember when Ghash? You remember Ghash.io?
Mm-hmm.
The cloud miner, and they were close to 51% at one point.
I think they had 51% at one
They got
point.
caught
They did.
double
They had
spending.
over 51%.
Remember when they got caught double spending? They were double spending like gambling sites.
I don't remember. No, I don't remember that.
And then like immediately there was just like a ton of backlash. Like people were pointing their miners.
I
all
remember the
switched.
response.
But
yeah.
it's like it's like after. It's more loose. It's like a loose game theory type of situation.
Yeah. Well, like Bitcoin can get a black eye, but
Right.
you're not going to kill it,
Yeah, it can take punches pretty well. I really love that glass hammer analogy. That's a good one. That's the first time I heard that.
That's why I like to think. That's why like I don't like to get into all the details about what like the reorg debate, because I just think of it as like look if they try, they're just gonna waste that one chance on trying to do something evil with it, and in the end, if you do something evil to Bitcoin, it's gonna kick you out.
Yeah. So it seems like we're talking about noise that we probably shouldn't focus on. What do you think we should be focusing on?
This is maybe more a little biased to my own interests, and I don't know if it's like what everybody should focus on, but I really am fascinated and intrigued and excited about what's actually possible with a Lightning Network for Bitcoin, and I think that people are taking for granted like how big it actually is. Like I can't hype it enough. Like, and I know it sounds like super Bitcoin religion culty, but it's not for that reason. It's like people are missing that there are actually some interactions that Lightning has added to the network, some utility, that it's not just about fast transactions and high frequency transactions. Like there's other things that you can do now. And people are like taking it for granted, and I'm trying to figure out how to get Bitrefill to position to take advantage of those things, because I see them and there are other people I talk to that see them, but there's not a lot of people doing them or planning to do them.
Yeah, I saw your tweet yesterday. What was it, like something like I feel bad for you if you don't have a Lightning strategy?
Yeah. You don't have a Lightning strategy. Yeah. Like, it's true. Like that's how exactly how I feel. That's why I made that tweet, was this feeling. I'm just thinking, man, like these people aren't. I feel like I have like asymmetric information, and I'm just gonna. I want to share it, and I share it with people that can have a good conversation about it. But like I also want to hide it, because I'm just like, wow, like this is gonna be fucking awesome.
What do you have to say to the people who thinks it's unworkable from like a network routing
It's just
perspective?
FUD. Everybody's job that isn't a Bitcoiner is to campaign against Bitcoin.
There's even some Bitcoiners that don't think Lightning Network would
It's
be
a horrible
workable.
job campaigning against Bitcoin. I wouldn't want to have that job.
Yeah.
No, neither would I.
And that's what happens with like Coinbase and people like this, is like they end up making Bitcoin their worst enemy. Like you can make Bitcoin your best friend or make it your worst enemy, but if you make that choice, like Bitcoin is your biggest problem all the time. Like Coinbase, Bitcoin is like just a big problem for them. Like it's their reason for existing, but they don't embrace it. They just try to like.
Well, not even that. Like,
Put it in a corner.
Did you see the interview that Brian Armstrong did with Chris Dixon like a few months ago? And he just completely missed the plot of what Bitcoin's about. He's like, I'm trying to build the world's best payments network. And it's like,
It's
Yeah, I
like
didn't
Venmo
see that.
2.0.
yeah.
Yeah, and they were talking about like Gemini's doing this, Coinbase is doing this, and they're being like, build the crypto economy, and talking about this isn't about replacing finance 1.0, this is about replacing it. And I'm just like, I don't really understand this logic. Like, the industry, on that side of the industry, I don't have a perfect name for it. We'll say like the VC blockchain side of Bitcoin, that they still touch Bitcoin and actually provide a lot of people access to Bitcoin. Like, I think what they get wrong is like they don't realize that Bitcoin is actually for breaking rules. And when you're saying things like
Crypto needs rules.
yeah, like revolutions need regulation. It's like, I get that maybe they were trying to target like sophisticated traders or something, maybe, or investment. Like,
I think it kind of worked. I think it was a good advertising campaign for them, even if it was out of touch.
But it's totally out of touch, because what happens is Coinbase and Gemini, they're not gonna serve Bitcoin users. They're gonna serve investment people, and they're not gonna like change banking. They're just gonna compete with banking and try to move the money over there.
Right.
And this is why you see them doing all these custody things, like wanting to hold all the Bitcoin is an anti-Bitcoin action. You know what I mean? and they really do. They want to hold all the Bitcoin, and this is why I say like I don't like Bitco and stuff, because they're helping everybody want to hold all the Bitcoin.
Do you think we get in a situation in America at least where they don't let you self-custody anymore? Stuff like Circle, I could see that. Like, Circle just doesn't let you withdraw. There's no withdrawal option.
Really?
Yeah.
I got kicked off a while ago.
I feel like I feel like that's like the way a lot of it is going, because from like a regulator point of view,
yeah,
obviously they don't want us to have self-custody.
You are seeing some things like this where they're giving people exposure to Bitcoin, but not the ability to have Bitcoin.
Right.
There's this popular like credit card kind of app thing. I'm not sure what it's based out of, but maybe you guys have heard of Revolut.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's Europe, right?
And it's pretty popular, like in Romania and stuff. Like, and people are like shill it to each other, like, oh, you guys should get this, check it out, it's cool. And what they like about it is that they can set their credit card to every time that they spend money, they can set a percentage of Bitcoin that they also buy at the same time. So like if I spend $30 on dinner, I can set it to 1%, and then I'm buying 30 cents of Bitcoin, and they love that they just can buy Bitcoin passively. But that Bitcoin is not withdrawable. Like, it's just in their account. Like,
Just an IOU.
yeah. They can sell it, but they can't withdraw it.
It's pretty fucked. So this is probably the best way in which to stifle Bitcoin, right? Is these on and off ramps.
Right, you capture Bitcoin. The way you capture Bitcoin, you capture Bitcoin users to not use Bitcoin. It's like I don't know if I'll go so far as to call it an attack, but it's certainly not the point.
How do we fight against this?
We try to actually work more with things like Lightning to start creating an actual circular economy where we just delete the system, where people can stay in Bitcoin and they can do it easily. There are some problems to be solved with volatility. There are some like make or die kind of solution-y things that I'm not so sure how I feel about. But in the end, like, you have to have the whole infrastructure in place so everybody can just stay in Bitcoin for it to even be possible. And that's how I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think like, how do we delete the system, not how do we compete with the system.
So how are you guys doing that at Bitrefill?
Obviously the main way that at the moment is that we sell gift cards for crypto. And so gift cards allow people to convert their crypto into goods and services without having an exchange account. You don't even have to have a bank account. You can just, if you can get your hands on Bitcoin, you can get your hands on goods and services. So now that allows you to be paid in Bitcoin. And I don't know if you could totally live off of Bitrefill. It depends on where you are and what your expenses are, but you can get a lot. We have like a shit ton of products, and you can pretty much live on crypto. Now we have to figure out the earn side. We have to figure out the B2B side. But to get that full circle going, I think should be the goal for everybody.
And there's no KYC, right?
No.
And what about, like, when you use the gift card at a merchant, can they tell it's a Bitrefill gift card? Like, does the merchant kind of know you're a Bitcoin user?
So there's a whole ecosystem of gift card that it's way before that, from way before Bitcoin.
Right.
And so there's that industry has grown and gotten deep, and there are providers, and there are like providers that aggregate all the different gift cards, and so there's this whole stream of where gift cards come from in the legitimate sense, not like with Paxful where like they're
Right.
peer-to-peer selling to each other. But these are actually authorized gift card sales that
Right.
are meant to be distributed by resellers, and so that's what we're doing. And so I don't know of any, but I'm not involved in all the customer service of where they would shut it down because it came from crypto.
I meant more like
Um,
maybe they could, be tagging users as these guys hold Bitcoin. If they knew it was coming in through Bitrefill.
They wouldn't depending on who they were in the loop. Like we have suppliers, and the suppliers certainly know which
Right.
cards they sold to us, and Amazon certainly knows who they sold the Bitcoin, so who they sold their gift card to at the top of the chain. But I don't know how easy it is to know down the chain.
Right,
You know?
because there's resellers and middlemen. Or whatever.
Yeah, and like it's not. Privacy is important to us. We do want to stay not doing KYC, but there's also it's not always like the perfect solution for privacy either, because you have to like spend and buy something and have it shipped to you, or you have to spend
Right.
it in person. So
Yeah,
it's
if
like
there's a mailing address.
yeah,
then-
so it's like it's not the best like money laundering tool if that's what people are thinking about doing with it.
Well, I was thinking is that it's the tangent I was going down is a lot of people think, the gift card approach is like kind of hacky, but I think it's a solid stopgap. But even ahead of that, I think it's actually could be more privacy preserving to Bitcoiners than if like Amazon like accepted Bitcoin directly. Then they would absolutely know I was a Bitcoiner, and they might even have some like transaction history if I don't use CoinJoin or practice like any kind of privacy techniques. They could see all my past transactions.
Yeah.
But if I go through you guys, then they might not even know I'm a Bitcoiner.
Yeah, but you say it's a little hacky, but it's actually a perfect example of what I mean by deleting the system. Like, we don't have to get everybody to accept Bitcoin. We can just have a company like Bitrefill that gets all of your access for you, and you come and spend your Bitcoin through us, and now everybody accepts Bitcoin. Why are we going to go out and convince all these stores to do it? The amount of volume actually for Bitcoin right now is not justifiable for people to like be adding risky payment methods that they have to like hold their own custody and stuff, or even worry about adding payment processes to do it, because they're going to get like 3% more sales maybe. Like it's not big enough for that. So we might as well delete the requirement to have to do that at all and just aggregate it.
Are you worried about spending?
Okay, so that's a good flip side to what I say about deleting the system. When those
So let's explain. So Spendin is the app that dropped this week from Gemini that allows you to spend Bitcoin at Whole Foods, Starbucks, wherever.
yeah, and Gemini like literally is looking at what we're doing. Like they literally are using like words that we use to describe what we do. Like you have the wink of eye out there, saying quotes like living on crypto. And the fact is that like when you are not making Bitcoin your best friend, like Bitrefill is trying to do, and Bitcoin is actually your worst problem, you end up having to do like this. It's like a fake news event that they did. They said, okay, we made an app. We partnered with Flexa, with the Spendin app, but the whole thing is just all Gemini. And so there's like this kind of like sleight of hand going on, and then you have to KYC to get into this loop. And if you're KYC to get into this loop, that means you already have a bank account and you already have the ability to like buy things at the
Right.
store, and you already have the ability to convert your Bitcoin into cash back and forth and connect to your account. So you're already all set. Like you're not unbanked,
That's true. You could just sell the Bitcoin yourself through Gemini and then pay with cash.
And then the app itself, it's just like it's like a whole delusion they're trying to create to make some kind of utility for the Gemini dollar, because you don't actually like you put dollars into Gemini to get Gemini dollars to spend Gemini dollars in Spendin app to buy coffee
Instead of like swiping your credit card.
And
or
there's
something.
the only crypto in there is like crypto against like like being safe against hackers and stuff, like traditional crypto. There's no cryptocurrency going on here. You know what I mean? It's just like you have a balance, and Gemini is settling that balance with the vendor for you, and they're just making that seamless for the user. I'm sure the app looks great. I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it's slick and everything, and it's impressive. But in the end, this is like crypto LARPing. Like they're not actually participating in crypto.
No, and this stuff has already existed too. Like the Fold app exists.
Yeah, there's us. There's Fold. There's we have a few competitors that do the same thing that we do. It's like crypto. Living on crypto is not invented by the Winklevoss twins. Like, come on.
And this is what like Vinny got famous off of this shit too, right? With his gift app. Back in the day.
I mean, yeah, and that was what part of why I was interested in Bitrefill as well, was because I used the shit out of gift at back then. They had like a 3% kickback or something they would give you, and they're like, hey man, I'll take some profits on Bitcoin through this.
Yeah, it was super useful back then.
No, it's like crazy that we have to relearn these lessons. Like fucking Coinbase had the swipe card back in the day that like people could use to spend anywhere, spend their Bitcoin anywhere. Like people didn't use it; they shut it down after a year or something like that.
It's because they don't understand Bitcoin. They really don't understand that. Like I don't think that the Winklevoss twins were like, guys, this is like, we all know this is like a bad idea and doesn't actually mean anything. It's just like a fake PR thing. I don't actually think they realized that. You know, I'm not saying they did it on purpose, that they made fake news on purpose. It's just that they don't even understand that they did that. Like.
Right, I think it's going back to like the comment on Brian Armstrong saying he's trying to build like the biggest payment system. Like there are very big entrenched companies, important companies that hold a lot of Bitcoin that don't understand Bitcoin. Like
they're like kind of end up like making the next PayPal while deluding themselves that they're actually doing something novel. Like
right, a lot of virtue signaling.
Also, the name Spendin fucking sucks.
I hate that. I hate the switching. Let's stop switching letters, freaks. We're done.
I will give them this. Like the switching like we had in the .com era, we had like the spelling things wrong, and then we had the -ly like suffix, and so like companies are always trying to find ways to make domain names more valuable, and to be able to have like, so now you can actually, I don't think they did get it, but it would be much easier to obtain spendin.com than spend.com.
It's true. It's true, but it's all a clout chase to ride on the back of HODL, which was just a natural drunk typo, and everything else is so fucking forced.
They could have just called it like Gemini Wallet.
Right?
You know, like if you want to market sell your Bitcoin at the Whole Foods cash register, like you can use Gemini Wallet to do it.
And now I'm thinking about, I'm not sure if any of us has actually pronounced it right once. I keep saying Spendin, but it's actually Spedin. Spedin.
Spedin?
Spedin.
Yeah.
That's true.
Spedin.
It's a horrible name.
It's a terrible name. No, but again, like how do we need to get people in these offices and convince them to change their minds and change their sort of mental framework of how this stuff works? Because again, like that's what we were talking to Sergi last night. Like me, Matt, and Sergi had like a long ass conversation about like the fight that we're in for like freedom and stuff like that. And these very important companies fundamentally don't understand the fight. It's a fight, right?
Yeah. Well, as a Bitcoiner, I think that I could see why you would feel inclined to like get in there, either to do more damage from the inside or fix it. But from my standpoint, being at Bitrefill and being like on the business side, I kind of like it. Like I kind of like seeing them fuck everything up, because it gives me time to be able to, build what the proper way to do it, at least through the lens of Bitrefill, and other people time to cover the other ends, and I would rather see Bitcoin just sneak up and just make all of them irrelevant than actually have them start getting it and start leveraging in more like tricky ways and making it even harder,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll just keep losing money, and they'll either learn their lesson or go out of business, right? And
well, they're not losing money yet, right? They're making a lot of money, but at some point, yeah, it could change. Like if you treat they treat all of their customers not like Bitcoin users. They treat all of their customers like for the values of their savings account. It's like, we want all your money here. We want all your Bitcoin here. We want you to trade. Like I was thinking about this morning, it's actually kind of unethical to introduce a Bitcoiner in an environment that has an order book. Like,
yeah, we were talking about this the other day, and it's a horrible UX.
Why do you say that?
Because Bitcoin isn't for trading has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Like it is what a lot of people end up doing with it. But like if you're buying Bitcoin, like maybe you're buying it because your friends are trading shitcoins and you're coming right in to trade. But like if you're buying Bitcoin because you need it or because you want to have it as an investment, store of value, like you're not really thinking that way. You're just thinking, I want some. And then immediately you're presented with, well, now you should gamble it. You know, like, and now there's a whole environment in Bitcoin of where everybody thinks they're good at trading and is going to be good at trading someday. And it's like, you're just going to you're going to fleece your customers and they're going to be unhappy and they're going to have like this negative experience when all they wanted was some Bitcoin.
Freaks, I know there's a lot of you out there listening who think you're going to be good traders. None of you are. None of you are.
I mean, I know some good traders,
sats.
but like they do it as a career.
Yeah.
Like they're serious about it.
If you don't do trading as a career, if you don't know what you're doing, do not get into it. You're going to get wiped out.
This is one thing that, like, I hate Coinbase as much as the next guy, but this is one thing that Coinbase I think did really well, is that they separated their their trading platform and like the brokerage service. So like if you're just obviously if you're a new user going on to Coinbase, like you're fucked. Like at this point,
I was
but I'm
gonna
just
say,
saying
I
in the
haven't seen it
beginning.
lately. I haven't seen what they do lately, but I'm gonna guess they pretty early in the process let people know that there's GDAX, and I'm gonna guess that they pretty early in the process also show people all the other coins you can buy.
Yeah, but
you know, they want you to buy the bundle.
yeah,
for
that's
example.
fucked up. I agree, but I'm saying like Gemini, Kraken, they don't even have you have to go into an order book to buy the Bitcoin. You have to actually set a market buy order and do that.
And I never thought about that this morning. How it was actually like, if your business is just getting people to buy Bitcoin and even hold it for them custodially, the concept of a order book is not necessary. Like I was thinking about like Cash App, for example. Like Cash App doesn't have an order book. It's like very basic, and I'm thinking, oh man, I hope they never add one. Like I just would like to have one thing just be the thing where people can just buy Bitcoin and have it.
Cash App, if you're listening, don't fuck this up.
It's super, Cash App is super simple. That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons we love it. Have you heard of Get Bitter?
No.
We had the founder on the pod last week.
A couple
And
weeks ago, we posted it this week.
His service is it's Europe. You register an address with him, a Bitcoin address, and then every time you send him a bank transfer, he just automatically converts it to Bitcoin and sends it to your address. It's non-custodial, no order book.
He's working on getting XPub keys too, so you're not.
Yeah, so it's not the same address every time.
Yeah.
But that seems like a great model, like the model to avoid the capture of the Coinbases and Gemini of the world. Just don't even let it sit on the exchange. And,
Like
and it also
Azteco and stuff.
and also yeah that, but it also forces like users to learn how to use a wallet first, right?
Yeah.
And to get an address to send.
So earlier when I mentioned that there are cool things that people aren't thinking about Lightning, this is like taps into one of them, which is that you can leverage reputation for and use trust now for a moment, because Lightning is instant. The trust profile actually changes. Like if you're willing to, if you know you're going to buy something from me, but you know that immediately you will know whether I scammed you or not. But I have a reputation and I'm a business. You're like, okay, why would we ever scam anybody? Because then we'll never be able to do it anymore. So that there's this like different game theoretical trust here where you're like, you actually can trust us. And so like that situation, like buying Bitcoin or selling Bitcoin like in person sucks because you have to sit there and like be like, wait for confirmations and and you're like, is this a shady deal? Like, do I want to be involved? Or like that situation we were talking about where he like auto buys for you,
Right.
like there would be no wait, it would just be instant. Like you would instantly have your Bitcoin as soon as the money got into his hands. Like,
So what does the UX flow look like for this, onboarding people directly on Lightning?
I think the first we probably need to get exchanges using Lightning. Since we know Bitrefill is not going to sell Bitcoin, so we're not going to solve that problem. But we are going to be part of the solution, which is like doing things like we have our turbo channels. I don't know if you guys know about this, but we sell channels, and so that lets people be able to have liquidity on and be able to get inbound payments.
This is Thor, right?
Yeah, Thor.
We use this service for our website, for our BTC Pay server.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna be setting up, making that easier to use, like in an API environment, for example. I think we're also looking at, there are some trustless ways we could do the channel selling on chain, and the onboarding can be the exchange, you withdraw to Lightning, or it can be when you buy your Bitcoin, it's already in the Lightning wallet. That channel is somehow either automatically provided, or the fee you pay is worked into the UX process. So you, like with Turbo, it's instant. So it's like there's none of this weirdness of, okay, I am going to explain to you what channels are and how you have to, like, you have this side of balance and that side of balance, and now I'm going to make you install a Lightning wallet, but it's not a Bitcoin wallet. It's like this tech coming through Lightning and through products from people like Bitrefill that's just going to like mask all of that. And it's just going to be like, you're going to pay a Bitcoin you're just going to pay, and you're just going to receive, and then you're not going to even care whether it's Lightning or on chain. And if as long as you're willing to pay the fees to have access to the people to make that convenience for you.
How far away are we from this, do you think? You think Lightning's mature enough at this point? What needs to happen?
I think things are going to escalate in the next 6 months, in the next year. I think things are going to escalate a lot. I don't know if they'll escalate in tandem with users, like if we'll get a pump and we'll get a lot of new people at the same time. It would be nice for them to kind of harmonize. But I do think that the development landscape, the product landscape, the people doing like serious investment in Lightning projects is going to escalate for sure. I can already see it. Yeah.
Do you think what other layer 2 solutions are you looking at, or do you think Lightning's a panacea? Do you think we need other layer 2 solutions?
I think it's certainly more than enough for now. This Liquid, the sidechain thing has like always kind of been like the redheaded stepchild of cool Bitcoin projects. It's like the hope that never happened, and now it seems to kind of be happening, but I don't know if it's actually happening or if it's just Blockstream doing a better job promoting it.
It's like it's kind of like the Ripple model on top of Bitcoin, right? It's like a federated 16 servers, 20 servers.
Yeah, but like the server model makes it sound a lot worse than it actually is when you remember that it is a centrally issued asset anyway.
Right.
And so it's but it is a little bit like janky, like to have hardware involved in the process, to like just make disclaimers about decentralization aspects of what you're doing. And then with their demonstrating product with Liquid, it's cool, but they're promoting it for a long time as a way to like facilitate arbitrage. And I've gotten to a lot of debates with people about this, and I might be wrong, but I actually don't think that facilitating arbitrage is a thing. Like, it's an oxymoron. Like, arbitrage is overcoming obstacle. And if you help people overcome obstacle, you are actually removing
that arbitrage opportunity.
And so it'll end up like the actual people using Liquid for arbitrage is going to be like the fastest person with the lowest latency with the biggest bank account, and that's the only person that's going to get the arb of any connected. And there's also a negative kind of weird interaction where you end up creating a unified order book when you do this. Like, if you have both sides, like if you have Tether on Liquid and you have Bitcoin on Liquid, and you can complete both sides of the trade, there's no more ARB anymore. Like, that means, and there's also no more difference between the order books. So it's like kind of like not in the exchange's best interest to participate.
That's good for us, right? Would you say that's good for the average Bitcoiner?
No.
You don't think it'd be like better price discovery?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's always gonna be like a regional / regulational. That's not a word, but
regulatory premium.
Yeah, like there's always gonna be an infungibility aspect to Bitcoin based on like its presence in the world. Where you're getting it, who's getting it, who you're getting it from. I mean, people talk about Bitcoin being fungible, but I've never heard of people paying the same price for Bitcoin. Like, it's fungible on the protocol level. But as far as like actually being able to not tell them apart, like, it's a waste. It's not happening,
So you're saying it's not fungible, like at the trading level, like just on the order bucks, or
I actually don't believe Bitcoin is fungible at all.
Why not?
So the UTXO set is literally designed to track the uniqueness of every, UTXO there. It's like saying who has permission on it literally tracks what makes them different. It's what it's for. So just on like that level, they're like not behaving fungibly. they're separated and they're identifiable in separate ways just to the network. And because the way a UTXO is kind of like a coin purse, there's more or less satoshis in each one, and the ones that have the most satoshis in them are able to get different pricing in fees, and so they actually spend less. So they're not even fungible when you use them, because the ones that are in small, like if you have a small amount of satoshis and you have to do a lot of UTXOs, you pay the fee amount of what you pay is a higher percentage. But if you have a bunch of satoshis in one UTXO, the fee you pay as a percentage per satoshi comes down.
So Lightning flips that on the head, right? Because Lightning, the fee is based on the actual amount you're sending, not the byte size.
Yeah, but I think that you're going to see some things like this in Lightning too. I think you're going to maybe see some non-fungible token stuff. I think people are going to experiment with people are going to try to put everything on Lightning. And so you're going to see some aspect of that there too. But in general, yes, the way Lightning works is it has to be fungible. They all have to be the same because we're passing them through each other, you know.
Fungibility is it's a big marketing word for Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin failed if it's not fungible?
Not to me, and it's not big to me. I actually like the idea of keeping Bitcoin human readable, and I would rather see privacy. I think is what people's real goal and what they actually want. I don't think anybody actually gives a fuck about fungibility. I think what they want is privacy, and they want to be able to have people not know what they're doing with their coin and be safe. Fungibility and privacy are very tightly related in most theoretical conversations, but in practice it's nonsense. Like
fungibility ties more to utility, I would argue, right? Because if you have like a tainted UTXO,
it's just like one of those words that I end up. The more I debate people about it, the more I realize it's such a useless fucking word. Like,
No, but the thing is, like, the Binance hacker, or whether it's an inside job or whatever, whoever has the Binance stolen coins, the 7,000 Bitcoin.
7,049 Bitcoin.
Yeah, like that person's going to be able to spend those Bitcoin. They just have to be creative about it.
I mean, look, we have a lot of advancements. We have Samurai doing all kinds of cool shit with their wallet for mixing and Whirlpool and all these things. And then we have the CoinJoin progress with Wasabi wallet, making it easy. And there are things now that I think that people are going to figure out to do with Lightning that make it easy to get some privacy. And so I think privacy is like your behavior dictates your privacy. Like if you're doing really bad shit, or you're really rich, or you have real privacy concerns, then you're going to be way more motivated to figure out what you need to do to stay private. And I think somewhere in the Bitcoin ecosystem, you're going to get what you need. But I don't think it needs to be like at the base layer on chain. It's not important.
What is important? Like, what does it need to be?
It needs to be money you can break rules with, and it needs to be private, ultimately. But it doesn't need to be fungible. It doesn't need to be, where we can't tell them apart. But there's things that are happening like that too, like with Schnorr signatures and stuff. I think that's what, we're gonna get more and more tech that's gonna make it hard to distinguish what a Bitcoin transaction is doing, whether it's opening a channel or not.
Especially when you're jumping in and out of Lightning and going through channels and whatnot.
Yeah. Like I was wondering before Lightning was actually being used, I was trying to like theory craft about it. I'm thinking, like this is going to like add a lot of privacy. I wonder if exchanges will start like blacklisting coins that have touched channels, but it ends up just being like Bitcoin's going to have so many little things like that. It's just going to be so impractical to start like they're just going to be like banning everybody, like,
and there'll be someone who takes them.
Yeah.
Like the businesses that don't take them will just hurt themselves.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing we've debated. We're just thought experimented on this podcast before. Like, what is the threshold of like coin-joined coins? Like, does it get to a point where exchanges, like if they do start blocking them and everybody just starts coin joining, like in spite of the exchanges, like is there a threshold where they have to put their hands up and say, all right, there's nothing we can do about this?
Yeah, I mean, so far I don't know of exchanges closing accounts or taking any kind of special action against coins.
Yeah, there hasn't been any.
Not yet, but if it does happen in the future.
But I do know they notice. I do,
yeah, you can tell in the block explorers, like on Blockstream, it says there's a good chance this Coin was CoinJoin, like you can tell.
I think it comes down to what we were talking about earlier, that really the only way they can force any of this shit is if they just ban self-custody altogether. Like it basically comes down to, like, if you're gonna block a transaction that has a Lightning history or a CoinJoin history like 8 hops away, then like you basically just banning self-custody altogether.
I have a feeling that like Bitcoin will find a way to fuck that up too for them. Like, because if you start segregating a market too much from the ultimate international market, you'll start getting like different pricing, and they'll end up being in a closed market where there'll be like, white Bitcoins and black Bitcoins, and blacklisted ones are going to have a different price, and the price will probably end up being like higher, and then people won't want the whitelisted ones because the blacklisted ones are just like people need those more, and they want to be in that market,
Yeah, no, this has been debated in the past. Like I talked to Tor Demeester about this last year in Dallas. He believes like all Bitcoins are fungible. It doesn't matter just because anybody would accept it. Like, so this is an interesting one. Like and this is the debate is like, will there be, like you just described, 2 markets for UTXOs? Like,
Well, we've received transactions. Like, if someone sends me Bitcoin, I'm not like looking to see. I'm not checking to see. What the history is.
We certainly aren't here at TFTC. Like,
I mean, either way, I just take it and I throw it right into Wasabi, and then I CoinJoin it.
Well, this makes me think. Yesterday, I was at the Consensus conference, and I was walking in the booth area, and I saw Chainalysis. And I'm like, okay, what could I think? I walked by them one time, and I'm like, I'm not going to talk to them. It's just going to be stupid. And then I saw them again, and I'm like, what could I say to these guys that would actually be kind of interesting? And then I had an idea. I was like, oh, yeah, that's actually might be a good idea. Let me go up to them and start a conversation. And I was like, you know what you guys should do? You guys should make a service for consumers, for users, to be able to see what information you have about their Bitcoin. Like, so they can see like where you think the origination is of any transaction. And so that way they can arm themselves and protect themselves, so they don't have to lose accounts if they get a dirty Bitcoin. Like, I want to keep my exchange account, and I like it. It has utility. It's a place that I can sell or buy Bitcoin. I want to keep it, but I also want to be able to get paid in Bitcoin. I want to be able to play with Bitcoin at a meetup and maybe buy some from someone if they need $50, and I don't want my account closed because I touched a Bitcoin that you think I shouldn't have touched. And so give me a service to do this. And we got into this whole long conversation, and they were like, then I started debating with them, and they were like, we're 99% confident that of any cluster that we recognize, have 99% confidence, enough confidence to hold up in court. And I was like, okay, let's talk about that. Like, if you can identify a cluster and then it has like 1 hop, you just lost all confidence. You have no idea, until you have external taint about what the person, where that coin ended up and who spent it and where it originated. Unless you can complete the path and you can find out it's the same person, it's like you don't have any confidence, okay? And you guys have a great responsibility because exchanges are using your information to oppress people. And they will close accounts of people. They will deny people access. They will they're not giving them access to banking, to money. Like they're cutting them out because of your information. And so you have to make sure you're presenting this information. That, John, you're being aggressive with us.
really?
Yeah.
What were they in suits? Like, what were they?
They were in suits.
Did they look like agents from The Matrix?
No. Well, no.
I feel like their biggest issue with that idea probably is that everyone would realize that they really can't tell.
Yeah.
They're not as sophisticated as people think they are.
But they're gonna plan to use it, and I think it's almost worse in a way. It's not about like being provable in court. It's that like Coinbase can oppress people without a court or legal like
without due process
action. Yeah, like they can just be like, all right, you're out.
They're recreating the shit we're trying to get away from.
I guess we don't have a right to a Coinbase account. But it starts feeling pretty fucked up when you're talking about this is like supposed to be freedom money and you won't let me have it. Like,
right. Well, I mean, it's like it's a temporary issue though.
You can get it somewhere else, but hopefully that's what ultimately makes Coinbase have to behave and Chainalysis irrelevant. Is that?
Yeah, and we won't even need on ramps when people start getting paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good segue into like how far away are we from a closed loop system? Do you think?
pretty far.
Yeah.
I think we have to get closer to where we either have to have some really cool tech that allows people to not have volatility. Although I'm not sure that matters anymore either. I have a new theory where I'm thinking that there's no poverty on Bitcoin, and what I mean by that is that you can't have Bitcoin if you don't like need it. If it isn't better alternative than it's like a last resort. And as far as for poorer people, and then if it's not for poorer people, it's like you can't have Bitcoin unless you can afford to save money, because it's volatile, right? Like you have to be able to risk money into the future to even have Bitcoin. So I'm not sure if that aspect plays out, you know?
Yeah.
And like the volatility reduces over time. And I think like the people are very obsessed with the idea of like a stable coin that doesn't go up or down. But I think really people just don't want it to go down, right? Like if it just nets up all the time,
No, that's true.
then that's like it's a good non-stable.
It's good for now that it goes up. Like when you to answer your original question, which is when do I think it will happen? Like it will happen when we reach saturation. You know, when most of the people that want Bitcoin have Bitcoin. But that has to actually happen like when Bitcoin has won. It can't happen before then, because then it will just be like Bitcoin is another option, and
Right.
you know it has to be like when it's in its ultimate form. And then we have to have some kind of stability, and then people will just be happy that it doesn't go down that much, and hopefully it'll be more like regular currency where it's like, oh, it moved, 0.1% today, and that's volatility,
No, that's
But I have a feeling I'll probably be dead before that happens.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I think about like what to care about in Bitcoin, because what I think is actually likely to happen within my lifespan, and I think a lot of people don't think this way. It's like, there are a lot of the cool, like, theoretical things that seem very inevitable that you can logic out for Bitcoin, but they always, like, leave out the when part. And it's like, yeah, it's inevitable, it'll happen. And everybody's, like, yelling on Twitter, this is the way it is, like, but, like, what if altcoins don't become pointless for, like, another 30 years? Like,
It could happen.
It could happen.
No, you're really driving home to the point that we've been driving home for like the last month on this podcast. This is very mission driven. So you're building on something that you don't even think you'll get the full benefits from in your lifetime. So why do you do this?
I think I already do get the benefits from it, and I definitely want everybody to understand what this tool is for, and that it's there for them and they can use it. And I want this tool to have the most utility as possible. Like it's already happening in our lifetime. I just more mean about when people are being like philosophical or theoretical about Bitcoin and fundamental concepts and why, like, it's like next level maximalism. I think it's like you can be the maximalist that hates all the shit coins and yells at everybody for being wrong, or you can try to understand why in the current market that they do exist, what they represent, and why Bitcoin isn't providing that to them, and when it will, and if you start thinking about that way, you're like, okay, the when could literally be like way far into the future. So maybe I should just like fuck off a little bit and give everybody a break and start explaining why things are where they are, so that future will come faster, so they understand,
Yeah, no, that's been a lot of what we've been doing in this bear market is re-architecting narratives, bunk narratives from the first decade that have, I would argue, set us back a bit. Instant zero comp transactions, buy coffee with Bitcoin. We're still.
Do you notice we're seeing that today? It's on like fees went up a bit and the price went up, so the fees in U.S. dollars, obviously scale with the price. And there's a bunch of, fee FUD on the Twitter today.
Is there?
I thought we had kind of gotten past it. Also, last night I got into a whole Bitcoin Cash Bitcoin debate last night.
With who?
I'm not gonna say his name, but he's an OG, and I just thought we were past it.
Yeah.
I think it's the headless chicken syndrome. Like we like people, Bitcoiners want to be like involved. They want to have a part. They want to play a role. They want to help. And I think a lot of them think that just being emphatic and yelling and correcting people is helping, and it is kind of. And I'm definitely guilty of that too.
So are we.
Yeah, but there is like there's like a level where it's just like too knee jerk and not actually helpful. And I want people to get away from that. Like there's some maximalists, I want them to like reach their next form, and I've been like privately like poking at some of them and being like, look, man, like you don't get it. Like it's not just about being right. Like it's about actually making this happen.
No, it's and making it happen is such a weird coordination effort, right? It's decentralized. It's just individuals like yourself, Matt and I, like picking up mics, trying to help people, and there's nobody to like centrally say, hey, market it this way, market it that way. So it's just bouncing ideas off each other, trying to find the best way. And it's like, again, like the whole Bitcoin quote unquote community. Like, what do you think about like the community aspect? Is Bitcoin a community, or is it just a bunch of disparate?
No, it's definitely a community. It's like the biggest thing about Bitcoin, in my opinion, is that it's a community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about like meeting everybody this week that you hadn't met before, and like just like all the hugs and all of the like everybody just feeling like they were part of something, like maybe not so much like at consensus like in the hall, but like at when people are actually being social with each other, it's like it's total fucking community, man. And on Twitter, like crypto Twitter, like you can't deny that that's not community. Like you can't say it's not community. Like it's that literally is like we're just forming a fucking tribe, and we just have to make sure we understand who the enemy is, and it's not each other.
Our tribe's the best tribe.
Yeah.
We're gonna trigger beauty on here. There is no community. Bitcoin is math. No, it is. No, it is. That was the. I mean, the great. We're meeting in person for the first time, and that's the great thing about Shitcoin Week here in New York City is that everybody comes in. I don't go to the conferences. I get to record with a bunch of people, meet a bunch of people, and it's just like, yeah, like you said, like the vibe is incredible. Like when we went to Riga last year, like on the flight back, I wrote a newsletter about just like the revolution. There's like a revolutionary feel in the air, like people drinking, talking about attack vectors of Bitcoin, how we're gonna protect ourselves against the state. It's fun.
I would say that I feel like, I mean, I didn't go to consensus intentionally, but I would say that I feel like this year was the least shitcoin week. It's like more Bitcoin focused than ever before.
They closed the event with Adam Back, right? That's what I heard. I wasn't in the room when they did it, but I think he was the last last keynote, whatever they call it, you know. And so just to have Bitcoin be the last thing there and have Adam Back be on stage at Consensus, like compared to the last time I was at Consensus in like 2016, it's like way more progress. Like 2016, I was trying to help Bitcoin Core, and Bitcoin wasn't even going to be represented at all. There wasn't like Gavin was going to be the only Bitcoiner at Consensus, and then we were like, all right, we have to
Bitcoiner.
Bitcoiner, quote air quotes.
Satoshi's disciple, right? Satoshi handed him over Bitcoin, the keys to Bitcoin.
And so then we worked together to try to get like more in there, and so we got a fireside chat set up. We got Eric Lombroso on stage, and
Last year they had Elizabeth Stark and Jack, which I thought was a big one.
Yeah, they're getting better. I could do without the Justin Tron posters sprayed
that was
throughout.
like intense, man.
Like that shit.
And how about him
Probably all you need to know.
How about him going on stage and just admitting that they plagiarized the white paper yesterday?
It was a translation error.
So fucked up. I meant more like all the side events and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't go to MCC, but I heard good things about MCC.
But MCC was a side event, right?
Right.
Like MCC formed because everybody was figuring out the idea of going to Consensus by not going to Consensus. Like, I'm not fucking paying that money. I'm going to go in the lobby, and I'm going to go to the side events, and I'm going to meet up with people while they're in town. And, like, we got consensus that everybody would come to Consensus, but we didn't get people. People were just not wanting to pay that money. It was like, let the scammers pay that price. Let the bankers pay that price, and they can create the gravity for all of us to have an excuse to come together as a community. And so that's what MCC was. It was just a side event saying, hey, well, if everybody's here, we might as well get everybody into a conference that's actually affordable and have some good content, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you bought your Consensus tickets this year at the worst possible time, like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, it probably cost like 0.7 Bitcoin, like 70 million Satoshis or something. What a horrible investment.
Trade-off. Speaking of MCC, what was your favorite talk of the weekend?
I didn't see all of them yet. I have to go back and watch a lot because I was also like doing meetings and networking myself. But I was very happy to see how much Lightning was represented, how much we got as Bitrefill with Sergey got to represent Bitrefill and Lightning at that event. And very, very Lightning friendly. I like that part a lot.
Did you go to any of the Lightning like side events that Pierre or Justin Moon held. There was like a bunch.
I went to BitDevs, which wasn't really very lightning-y last night, but no, I didn't. I just, with my schedule, we had our whole schedule as a company for like 3 of us came, and like it was already planned before we even got here, and then it just got more dense after we got here, and so it was just like nonstop. Like I got my ass is fucking kicked after this week. Like my legs everywhere are sore. Like it was nonstop. It was intense.
Well, thank you for fitting us into your schedule.
Oh, I had to, man. I like the podcast. There's so many now. I don't keep up with every single episode of the time, but what I do is lately I've been flying more, and so like I just download a bunch and I'll just like catch up on whatever I can in those hours. But you guys are definitely one of the good ones, and I didn't want to miss the chance to sit here. And actually, I'm enjoying this conversation a lot.
Thank you. I miss you. I miss your video content. I wish you would make more interviews.
I do too. I miss it, and I wish I would do it more. And it's just like hard to like. I want to do so many things. Like I'm just like the Bitcoin addict. Like I want to do all the things, but I can't. You know, I would love to do like at least a monthly some kind of video content or something. But it's like I probably need to do the things that I could probably pull off. I need somebody like yelling at me to do them to force me. Like I need a loud wheel. You know,
need like a Roger in your life.
Maybe no. I think I have a Roger in my life. Thank you very much.
It just popped in my head. Are you guys doing like any educational resources at Bitrefill?
Yeah, we're working on a project now. I mean, not for Bitcoin, for Bitrefill. We're working on a project now of doing some videos to kind of do walkthroughs for a lot of the products, because we sell so many things that the user experience changes depending on what you buy. And sometimes like you need a little more information about what you can and can't do with a card, or you need a little more information about how to redeem it, or and there are some cards are like for a fiat amount, some cards are for like time period amounts, and so or amounts of minutes, and so there's all different experiences. So we're gonna make some videos kind of walking people through that.
Yeah, Hodl. Their video series is very, very helpful for their platform. Like I'm a big fan.
Like I haven't paid that much attention to them, which bit me in the ass yesterday because I was trolling them about like having a lightning strategy.
It was like 2 days ago they announced it.
and then like they were like they just like lolled at me, and I'm like, all right, why are they lolling at me? And I like looked at their feed, and it's like, here's what we're doing with lightning.
No, that was Roman was bringing up the mempool today too.
Who was?
Roman from Hodl.
There you go.
No, but the mempool.
It's like 70,000 unconfirmed transactions right now.
Yeah, but the fees like are reacting pretty beautifully. Like we went over the stat at BitDevs last night. I believe the average fee over the average block size over the last couple of days has been like 1.2 or more megabytes. And then if you look at the mempool going back to like 2017, when we were going through the mania, like the fees rising today are like minuscule compared to what it was like 2017, 2018.
Okay, but this is a little bit of fake news here. Like,
why is that?
Like, I'm pretty sure they were measuring in Bitcoin and not in dollars.
Yes.
And so it looked all huge and spiky in the early days because people didn't even give a fuck, and they were just including random amounts of fees. And because it was still only like a few cents or 50 cents, or they were even willing just to put $1, and like it was almost a little bit of a tipping feel to it back then, because like we liked miners back then, and so like on the chart it looks like all this like high density,
high fees.
Yeah, high fees, and then it goes off down here, and it's like it looks so much better now, but like $2.50 or something today or whatever.
It's way better than 2017.
It's still pretty high,
If you compare Satoshis per byte, it's way better than 2017 right now.
Yeah, no. I'm saying I do agree that things are improving. I'm just like it's a little bit of a fake newsy thing to measure it in Bitcoin. I don't like when people say, 1 BTC equals 1 BTC.
But you shouldn't measure it in USD either, because it's going to scale up.
No, it's not. Look, the measurement, what you're measuring is buying power. And the metric you use is whatever one it works the best. Like we used to use our fucking arms to measure things, and our feet. Like they're approximate, but they were good enough. And so is the dollar. But it's buying power. It's what you can actually do with the money.
But so like the way I think about it is like a lot of people are worried. I guess the biggest worry about fee spikes and just fees going up in general is that if I have a UTXO and it's sitting there and it has 50 million satoshis in it, or it has 25 million satoshis, is it going to get cost prohibitive for me to spend it? And in that situation, really the satoshi per byte matters more there, because as long as that stays relatively constant, even if the US dollar amount increases, like that UTXO is still
I think
not
it's kind of
cost
it's kind
prohibitive.
of circular though. I think because it's like, if I have $1 of Bitcoin and it costs me 50 cents, to me that's going to be expensive. If I have $1 million of Bitcoin and I have to spend 50 cents, it's very cheap. So I get that side of it, but in the end, as a percentage, or if as an increase in dollar amount, like if it was $500 to do a Bitcoin transaction, a whole lot of Bitcoin transactions seem really expensive. But if you're sending $50 million, it's cheap. So it's like,
Right, I'm just saying that that specific UTXO hasn't gotten priced out, because that UTXO also goes up in US dollars. Like if you're a new user and you come in, then that's one thing. But if you're just holding the UTXO there, the actual balance of that UTXO goes up in US dollars as well as the fee.
yeah, I don't know.
So we're gonna just naturally drifting towards this Bitcoin at the protocol level, just gonna be a huge settlement layer.
Probably. People like Roger Ver are scared of that. They don't like the idea of that. I definitely think that Lightning is a path towards that, because we might see the blocks get filled more and more with channel openings.
Yeah, I'm sending more transactions than the last 6 months. I sent more transactions than the 6 years before it, just because of Wasabi, coin joins, and opening channels.
Yeah, and we still have block space left. I say this a lot. I consider the blocks to always be full. Like that's how I think. Like,
Why?
Because they could, if as long as the fee is affordable, they could be full at any moment. And if the fees are ever underpriced, somebody will find a way to fill the blocks occasionally. So you always have to like be thinking as from a design standpoint that like the blocks are full. Like we can't count on anything that makes a different assumption.
That's a good assumption to work with.
Yeah,
I like that.
like at Bitrefill, we accept zero confirmation for payments, and it works. It works fine.
Does anybody double spend on you guys, or?
We've had a double spend, but it was also something we could have prevented. Like our setup, there was something we didn't notice about our setup where it happened. We would have noticed it if that didn't happen, and so it actually helped us fix a bug. I mean, we could be double spent. I'm not saying that like we have like double spend protection. I'm just saying that like in practice, it works, and while it works, we're gonna do it because the customer experience of paying instantly is like worth a lot. Like
It's just like the double spend thing is probably like just like a credit card chargeback for the merchant. So if it's not happening, you're just viewing it like that up to this point.
maybe, but it's more like we've had it for 4 years. And it hasn't really costed us. And I know that like sounds like,
Put a target on.
I'm gonna regret me saying that someday. And
Well, you're like analyzing the transaction, right? It's got to be under a certain
Yeah,
amount.
we're not
It's
just, like,
certain
taking
type of transaction.
there's a standard to it, and we don't share the standard because we don't want people to try.
Right.
But it's like it's cumbersome to figure out how to double spend efficiently, and if somebody wants to work with us to stress test it, to pen test our setup, we'll be happy to.
You're like, how much trouble is someone to go through to double spend a $50 gift
Well,
card?
you
buy?
end up having to like find an angle around how the whole company works to see how you can fully exploit it in the fastest way possible, and that behavior itself is like noticeable. So it's how fast can you really get,
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy these sort of operational risks you guys have to think about in all areas, and the Bitcoin sort of provides this unique UX flow that nobody's built mental models around until the last decade.
Well, and you have to keep in mind that like we only have to have a float of accepted zero conf transmission. It's not like I'm saying all our Bitcoin is held in zero confirmation situation. It's that there's a flow of the frequency of customers we're getting that are spending Bitcoin, and there's a certain amount of Bitcoin at any given moment that is in a zero conf state, and that amount is reasonable. You know what I mean? It's like if somebody zero comped us, double spent us for everything that they could possibly within that time frame, we would be fine. So like you have to really find a severe kind of exploit to get through this and cause real damage. If it became a nuisance to us, then we would eventually stop. We hope Lightning will be there to catch when zero comp is no longer useful.
Yeah.
Should we be concerned about the fact that to use Lightning, you have to use it with a hot wallet? Does that hurt Bitcoin's security from an end user point of view? Because we've always said you got to do cold storage.
Well, okay, but like, just on chain is for cold storage. Lightning isn't. It's just for usage. Like you're using it because it's high frequency. Like you don't really need to be. Yeah, there might be use cases with like tech that gets made or products that people might want to be on Lightning just because. Like the instantaneousness is one reason. Like that's something that Bitcoin can't do other than zero conf. But like the instantaneousness is a feature. So there might be people that want to be on Lightning just for that feature. But generally, you're doing high frequency, so you're actually using your Bitcoin, so you're not cold storing it. You know what I mean? So you're already in a situation where you're like constantly accessing your Bitcoin.
Yeah, and this drives like going back to like the mental frameworks that haven't been developed yet, and the sort of interactions users have with Bitcoin, and more importantly, money. Like Bitcoin's a new form of money. You're gonna have to figure out new ways to interact with that. Yes, on your UTXOs on at the protocol level, you should probably have in cold storage, and then you move like savings checkings account thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't overstate it. Like, I bet both of you have had some amount of Bitcoin in your mobile wallets that is just like totally like you would lose it. Like,
Yeah, I do right now.
yeah, so it's
But
like
I have more. I have more in our Lightning.
oh, you're so
right?
reckless, like people fucking do it. They think, okay, I got a few $100 at most in my phone, maybe $20, maybe $50, whatever it is. Each person has an amount that's a threshold of money that they would keep in their wallet that they know could be stolen or lost. Like,
And that's how we should treat Lightning.
I don't know if it's how we should treat it. I think it's more secure than that. Like, it depends on what like the specific setup you mean is. Like a question like this came up on the panel, the Lightning panel consensus the other day, and it was like, about it being like a hot wallet situation, and like I'm thinking about Bitrefill, and I'm thinking, well, it's like we make our node known, and so you know where our node is, and there's access there. But you have to remember, like, these are all multi-sig transactions that like somebody on the other side has the ability to close the channel and take the money, and like so like. Robbing a Lightning node is like not as simple as it sounds. Like, like the other people have the keys, and so you have a certain amount of Bitcoin that you've staked, but it's like in a fucked up state. It's not like it's literally locked in. It's not like it's just staking it. It's
it seems like the best attack vector to steal somebody's Satoshis on the Lightning Network would be like a dummy invoice or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about ways to like. I thought about this before Lightning was getting used, like whether there are ways that people would end up getting scammed because of people creating fake Lightning situations. And you can see that there's some possibility here with, like, for example, with Blue Wallet being custodial. There's some scams they could pull off, make everybody think they have Bitcoin and then just disappear.
So, like, my bigger issue is, like, I guess, like, for routing nodes. Right now, I mean, the best practice that everyone's saying is, and I agree with it, is that personal nodes, everyone should be running through Tor. Don't broadcast your IP, yada, yada, yada. But with the routing nodes, a lot of them, we seem to be seeing them, in data centers, like in servers, on ClearNet, like broadcasting their IP clearly in the data center. They have a bunch of Bitcoin on that node. I know, like Ellen Big, for instance, they have like 30 of the top 50 nodes, and they're pretty much all in the same data center in Virginia.
Yeah.
Do you have
That's like a massive honeypot, right? Like all it takes is like one person. Like we're not even talking about anything to do with the specifics of Lightning. Like if someone in that data center realizes that they have physical access to the servers, like that could be a major issue, right?
I mean,
for them.
This is getting a little into, or maybe I may be talking above my understanding, but I feel like you're missing that the Bitcoin in that node is not all like in that node, and nor can it all be stolen from that node.
Right. Like
Like
Like if you have static channel backups, could you just spin up a new node on yourself and recover it that way, right?
I mean, you wouldn't get your channels, but you would get your Bitcoin
Like
back.
if somebody
yeah.
hacked into our Lightning node, I'm pretty sure what they could do is they could only close channels.
Right.
And then if they had control over whatever wallet was our channels, where the balance is on our side, they could steal that Bitcoin.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
But like
a lot of times, if it's a well balanced node, it's like 50% of the capacity is on the node.
But I think that as things evolve, what we'll see is like we already have, I think it's 3, maybe it's 4 now, but we have 3 nodes. And so we're already having to scale for various reasons, like to be able to have one go down while and the others be up and things like this. And to have one that has compatibility with Thor. So we have multiple implementations we're using, not just one implementation. So like there's already aspects of we're running this as a business in a high amount of Bitcoin environment. We're already having to break it apart into pieces. And so now you have like less value in each node.
Right.
And now we'll have to set up nodes where there's high value that like aren't identifiable to us.
Right.
And if you can't identify them, then how are you going to hack them? You know?
Yeah, I guess like the thought process I'm going down is, I mean, I think you probably remember like the early exchange days, the early Bitcoin exchange days. Like a common fuck up was that their keys were on some data center somewhere, and that's how they got hacked. Some employee of the.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're about to experience that again for a little bit while people learn. Don't necessarily.
Now I think about it, you could actually grief the company hard as fuck because you could submit old states for all the channels and lose and get the penalty on all the channels. So you could make that
You can hurt
you
the
can
company,
make
right?
them lose all the money.
Yeah.
That'd be a good little grief.
Now this is you mentioned LM Big. Do you have any good LM Big theories? What's going on with these LM Big nodes?
I don't know. I don't worry about it. I don't think it's dangerous. I just, if they want to play on Lightning, like this is how the protocol is. It allows them to do whatever they want to do. They're doing it. They give away channels. They have all kinds of money, all kinds of Bitcoin in there. I know they have a lot of Bitcoin. They're not scared to put it in there. So I think that at some point they're helpful because they're taking the risks and then stress testing the software. And they probably have a lot more incentive to feel safe than most people because of how much Bitcoin they have.
You're sitting across from a man who's worried that LM Big.
I'm a little bit less worried. I had some
Are
good
you?
conversations yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't think about them too much. Is really all it is.
Well, part of the reason why we spun up our node was because I felt like as a good Bitcoin citizen, like we couldn't complain about someone else using it in a certain way if we weren't also,
Yeah.
routing payments. And recently,
But what don't you like? What's
Recently
the certain
they
way, what were they doing that you don't like?
they implemented the Thor, which was like a Thor similar service to you, which I thought was interesting.
Uh-huh.
My issue was it just didn't really. Well, what's that quote? Like, don't attribute malice to stupidity.
Yeah.
It like didn't really logic out to me to make sense. Like, I understand the idea of splitting up your nodes to reduce attack vectors, but like if you put them all in the same data center in Virginia, like you're not really reducing attack vector there at all.
Maybe
And it
they're just trying to
seems
figure out how to
sloppy.
scale Lightning, like how to do it at scale or something.
Yeah, now I believe that it's like some dark net type whale, whatever OG whale, who no one really knows, like lives in like a Russian bloc country and just wants to see Bitcoin improve, and maybe there's some mixing element to it where he's trying to mix all these funds, and
it's possible.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
the other weird thing is like why name them all the same? Like if it's
on.
kind of similar. Well, no, it's kind of similar to like what an attack I think would look like if they weren't all named the same. Like you would try and control like 30 of the top 50 routing nodes and
Different names. And
Yeah.
So the fact that they're named the same, I think, leads me to believe that that the actor isn't malicious.
Yeah. Well, the malice thing I think comes from another like thing about humans is like when there's a void of information, we are compelled to fill it. And so this is why there's so many conspiracy theories in Bitcoin. It's like because Bitcoin is so good at being Bitcoin, like there's a lot of shit we can't really figure out what people are doing. And so, but we always need that narrative. We always need to fill that void with some kind of guess.
Did you see the new Satoshi conspiracy?
Oh, we jumping into this?
This is the best one yet.
I don't think so.
Phil Leroy.
Phil Leroy, have you heard of him?
No.
He was like this badass, like cartel type,
He was
right?
a dark web guy, right?
Oh,
Wasn't
I
he?
think I
Or-
saw this.
And they
I
think he created Crypt, and then he got arrested around the same time that Satoshi disappeared.
Yeah.
And the conspiracy goes that Craig worked at his company and like whistle blew to get him into jail, and then took the Crypt volumes, but he can't access the Crypt volumes.
I heard a good theory that I liked recently, a new one. I don't know if it's new, but it's new to me. That what happened was that Satoshi died back when he gave Gavin the torch. But like that he died, and that Gavin and Craig are like one of maybe the only people that know. And they're trying to use this information in a way somehow to make money off of it. And like it would make a lot of sense if you think about like how Craig is behaving. Like he's like, I'm just gonna say I'm Satoshi because even if I can't prove it, nobody can prove that I'm not because the guy's fucking dead. Like you know, and maybe that's why Gavin was willing to like vouch for him because he knew that nobody would ever prove that for sure that it wasn't Satoshi. You know, like they had this information, they were trying to find a way to get something out of it, and they failed.
The Gavin saga is so weird. Like going to the CIA, like wanting to be the figurehead, like thinking he was the lead
Yeah.
maintainer of a decentralized project. Like, it's. I wonder. It leads like again. You said like we try to fill the void with conspiracy theories. My mind automatically goes to like state actors trying to embed themselves in Bitcoin.
I say this about like all the Tether FUD. I'm like, what if it's like fucking the American government using Tether, like to buy a bunch of Bitcoin in a way that like disassociates themselves from it? You know, like it's a lot of money. It's somebody important.
It could
It's
be
not
that.
like-
It could be that, or they created Tether just to set the precedent of shutting it down and making it so the KYC stable coins are the only ones that can be used.
Yeah, but Tether is actually has traction and people are actually using it. So
Yeah, the feds definitely didn't create Tether.
I know.
They might have created Bitcoin, but they didn't create Tether.
Phil Potter created Tether, as far as I know, the guy from Bitfinex. So
Yeah.
And he left. That dude left at the perfect time.
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, he left Bitfinex
like a year ago or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's scot free in this whole saga, I believe.
He was New York based for a while, which is pretty scary to be like a New York based Bitfinex employee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He was on a good panel at Magical Crypto.
What panel?
There was a panel of exchanges. It was Phil, that formerly Bitfinex, was while he was there, and it was Austin from Kraken. And there was a guy from the new the BTSE exchange, and Miha from Bitstamp, and Josh Olwitz, Carpe Noctem, was asking them a bunch of questions like about, about stable coins, about stuff like that, and it was good answers. It was interesting.
Yeah, no. I watched a few. The Jack Mahler's speech was great. I actually interviewed him the day before, so I got like a preview of that. And then Alex Gladstein, I thought his presentation was like incredible normie food, like just to send people to get I sent it to my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my parents. Like, watch this, and you may have a better understanding why Bitcoin's important.
Yeah.
It's So if you freaks have not seen that video yet, watch it and then send it to your friends and family who are skeptical about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I love the live streams in general for MCC were great.
Yeah, that's another thing about conferences. I feel almost like a mooch, especially here in New York. Like I didn't pay for any of the conferences. I just streamed MCC and like met people outside, and I hung out in the lobby at Consensus yesterday. I like to meet people.
Yeah.
It's the way to do it.
I think the conference ends up making more money if they have good live streams. It's just good. It's good publicity for the event.
Yeah.
If it's a good event, it'll be, and if it's an annual event, if it's a good event, the live streams just boost revenue, I would say.
Yeah, and MCC did a good job of having. I'm sure they're giving some people some FOMO. Like, they gave away all these like toys and all these like souvenirs, and they had a fucking bull in the house, and like you had to kind of be there.
I can't believe they had a fucking bull.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm surprised they didn't get any like animal rights people.
They did. There was a lot of people on Twitter freaking
Okay.
out.
I didn't
Really?
see it.
Yeah.
They're yelling at Bitcoin sign guy for getting on top of it.
But Bitcoin sign guy didn't bring the bull, right?
I don't
Somebody
think so.
said he did. Bring
That was
it.
the rumor. That was the
Yeah.
rumor.
Crypto
but-
Graffiti said him and Bitcoin sign guy. I think that might have been tongue in cheek. But
Yeah, I don't think he actually brought it, but maybe.
That was
Still badass.
funniest picture out of the MCC was Charlie Lee holding a shitcoin next to the toilet, and his face looked dejected, like because he is the shitcoin king.
Yeah, fucking Twan from the block had like one of his best tweets ever. It was like that feeling when you're posing with a bowl of shitcoins and you know you sold the top on your own.
That's like, yeah. That's the other. Like, a lot of people in the early days who did some fucked up shit are sort of going under the radar and getting through unscathed. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would go so far to say that like Charlie Lee did fucked up shit.
I would say it's not on Charlie Lee as much as it is on Coinbase. Like the moral hazard of allowing the coin that your CTO started to be the first coin after Bitcoin on your exchange is a little odd to me.
Was it the first one? I mean, it took him a long
No,
time.
it was after Ethereum.
After
but it
Ethereum.
was the third.
Yeah, it was.
And
after
and the
Ethereum.
annoying part was like the run up, he was like really crazy on Twitter. Like Litecoin was trading at like $2, and he was like sending out polls. He's like, "What price is Litecoin going to be when it gets added to Coinbase? This, that," and just kept like building the FOMO.
I'm sure he has some regrets about the way he said things, but I don't know that he ever meant to hurt anybody.
If we actually bottomed, he called it perfectly, because he said at the top, he was like, "If you're not ready for it to go down to $20, like you should sell now," and it bottomed at $22.
Yeah.
Which is like a fucking ridiculous call. Like that holds. That's like a fucking ridiculous call. And then the other thing, I will always be grateful for him putting $1 million in the
SegWit
Litecoin
address.
SegWit address. I mean, I wouldn't even have the balls to hold $1 million on Litecoin in the first place, and then he put it on a SegWit address during all that FUD. So that was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
fucking huge.
I'm not sure if that actually helped anything, but it was a nice, I guess, stunt.
It was a super easy argument point, like, oh, if SegWit FUD's real, then
Take
fucking steal
yeah.
Charlie's coins. Like, I know my biggest realization that SegWit FUD was bullshit was that I've been holding my coins in SegWit addresses for over a year now, and no one's taken them. So
Yeah, I mean, the best anti-FUD is just going and learning how SegWit actually works and realizing that it's not like, what they're saying is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, it just fixes the malleability issue. Just changes the way that you crush the bits. That's basically it obviously separates the witness from the signature, but that's the crux of it, is just changing
Well,
the
I
order.
believe the FUD was that like it removes the signatures, so it's like
anyone can spend.
Yeah.
It's
It was well branded FUD. Anyone can spend does not sound good.
I mean, those guys are good at figuring out like angles to FUD, and I think what I shouldn't even say it. Fuck.
well, that's what I was just going to get into. What's going to be like the big FUD going forward?
Well, I don't know that. What I'm going to say is, I think what they need to do to be good at FUD is they have to design the FUD that makes us waste the most time, which means like debating with us and getting us to talk about things and getting us to take things seriously. Like the reorg thing is a good attack on Bitcoin on a social level. It gets everybody wasting their time talking about that when they could be like earning money and doing something productive.
But I think
like,
a lot of new people learned because of it, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think what they really were killing us with was the memes for a while, but I feel like Bitcoin meme game has really gotten a lot stronger.
Yeah, the Bitcoin meme game is on point for sure. Now Bcashers, like when they try to meme it, just looks like embarrassing. It's like bitter.
Yeah, the FUD around SegWit's hilarious. Like, yeah, the certain sects on crypto Twitter that think that one day, like, anything in a Bec32 address or on the Lightning Network is just going to get stolen from out from under them. Like, that's their FUD, and there's like, that's how they explain it. That's it. It's just like, this is going to happen if you do this. All right, explain how, and they can't.
I woke up one morning like 8 months ago or whatever, 7 months ago, and like Bryce Wiener was like telling everyone that any SegWit address wasn't safe.
Freaks.
Yeah, and they were gonna prove it when then on this date. Yeah,
Right.
Like, it's never happened. It's just like FUD. I'm not using my mic. Oops. Yeah, it's just FUD. It never happened. They're a bunch of assholes. Whatever.
Yeah, Bryce Wiener in particular. Freaks. If you're new to the space and Bryce Wiener hops up on Twitter, just ignore him. He's been a serial scammer
That
for the
dude is
last.
like seriously useless.
Yeah.
It's like one of the original shitcoin dons.
He gave a speech that said shitcoins are going to change the world at one point. Yeah,
Well, I guess they did maybe.
we're an hour and a half in here. You've got a flight in a little bit. What else should we riff on here? Wrap on. This has been a great conversation. Thank you again for
thank
coming
you.
in.
It's enjoyable.
I'm trying to say. So Bitrefill, like what you were talking about Lightning Network enabling new use cases, and it doesn't be Bitrefill specific, but what use cases do you think people are not paying attention to or aren't even aware of yet that are going to come to the fore?
I maybe touched on this a bit earlier, but I like to think about the temporary trust thing, where we can leverage the fact that we're a centralized entity without having to have custody necessarily, and only be at most a nuisance to the customer. And so you can create cool little like non-custodial situations where you can help them do things with Lightning. And I have examples, but I can't really say them yet because we're actually going to do them, and some of them you're gonna see are gonna be fun. Like, but there are things you can do that aren't just adding features to the protocol. Like there's other things you can do. But yeah, streaming payments could be cool. I'm not interested in micropayments, but I am interested in streaming payments because it allows a flow of money. Some examples would be like, I've said this before, you could do like charge for video streaming and have paid streaming and still have a central entity in the middle providing the content, facilitating the content from the content creator, like a YouTube, but never actually have custody. Like you could have the person paying you by the minute or the second or whatever, and then YouTube taking their cut, and then you getting your money immediately. And there's no withdrawal process, there's no deposit process. You know, it's just you open a channel to the right place, and this is what happens in that channel, and you agree to that before you enter the channel. Stuff like that is possible. Maybe streaming payments for getting paid, like
Paid by the
like a
minute.
time clock. You know, you could say, okay, I'm clocking in, and you're immediately getting paid. Like the money is streaming at you. Like, and that's it. Like there's no more waiting for your paycheck or, you know.
Could you
like,
imagine that? Not having to wait for the 1st and the 15th?
That'd be pretty crazy getting paid by the minute.
Yeah.
That think about the
Like in a good way, I'd be fine with it. But
I mean,
guess it'd
but
be an
we've
accounting
accomplished this
issue.
before. It's just that people don't really realize like that Lightning, the instantaneousness like opens up interesting little things. Like people do this with like phone sex. So, you know, they pay by the minute,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
gets charged to their phone bill or whatever, or buying ringtones with your cell phone account. Like people figure out weird little hacks like this because the people use them and spend money this way.
I haven't bought a ringtone in quite a while.
Yeah.
What was my worst ringtone? I think my worst ringtone was Rod Stewart, If You Think I'm Sexy. That was my ringtone at one point. One thing I want to touch on before we leave here is before Matt got here, we were rapping on you live in Romania now. You grew up in the States, and I think you have a very interesting perspective as an American living abroad and experiencing a new culture and looking back on ours. So what's life like in Romania, and how does it compare to the culture here in America?
I mean, honestly, like all my life, I've always felt a bit alien in the U.S.
Why is
like,
that?
I don't know why. I'm starting to have some theories now that I've been in Europe for a while. And I think what it might be is partially that my heritage is Portuguese. My father was born in the Azores, which are Portuguese islands, and so was my mother's father. And the city where I grew up, there's a lot of Portuguese culture. And I think that maybe I grew up with a little bit of a European culture in the U.S., and so there were just some behaviors that I just always felt like I was a little bit outside, and it might just be me and my own personality and whatever. But towards the time right before I went to Romania, right around then, was like the Trump election, and I just got this increasing feeling that everybody in the U.S. is just fucking crazy. Like, why is everybody worried about all this dumb shit? Why is everybody arguing about shit that doesn't matter? Why does everybody care so much about materialistic things? And I just got this kind of fall of Rome vibe where everybody was just turning into the most perverse, America problems kind of situation. And I was just I just don't even want to be here anymore. I had business partners in Romania. I'm gonna go visit them, and then once I got there, I just wanted to stay. And after having been there a while, it's it's much more down to earth. It's much more practical. People care about things that make sense that they care about, and it's not totally different. There's still a modern society, and have all the things that you would expect them to have, clubs and people get drunk and people have nice cars, and it's like they have things, but it's like just way toned down, like on the perverse side, what I would call the perverse side in America.
Yeah, America's turned into like a clout chasing society. It's all about Instagram.
I don't know if
all
it's
about
vanity or what it is, but it's just like I think it's just like they have too much time on their hands. They have, I don't know, like, why don't people care about being productive and making the most of their life and being happy and
being happy is like again, this sort of ropes back to why I'm in Bitcoin. I think a sound money system could provide a better allocation of resources, which would lead to better increased happiness and stuff like that. And we talked a lot about on this podcast about the economic KPIs sort of being off kilter, where we're just fine tuning for growth and inflation, where nobody's even looking at stats like happiness and quality of life, which have been depreciating for decades in this country in particular.
And very sensitive. The Americans are very sensitive about a lot of things, like just words. Like, I don't know, like I use abrasive wording a lot. I use candor a lot, but I'm never trying to make somebody like feel like they're an idiot or whatever. Like maybe I do a little bit but it's a style. It's not like it's not personal. It's not. I'm doing this because I want to show conviction, not because I want you to feel like shit. Like.
No, the victim mentality is pervasive too, and it's weird. It's a weird time to live in this country because things are being so polarized, so politicized, and again, it's like I believe that everybody's missing the mark. Like the framing of all the debates of what's going to make a better future are completely off kilter. Like you're swiping at branches when you're not getting to the root of the problems.
Yeah. Yeah, we could start getting really philosophical and talk about like markets, and I think in the end, even markets make a lot of things inevitable, and and sometimes all this kicking and screaming is just a waste of time, because what's going to be the most effective and efficient is going to rise to the top, and that's just going to be the way the current state of reality is.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. You got any thoughts on that, Matt?
I was just thinking back to your Bitcoin is inevitable. I go back and forth like that. It's like Bitcoin doesn't need us to do the podcast or anything, but like the individuals benefit from it, right?
Yeah.
But
well,
Bitcoin is fine.
I think the question maybe should change to, and thinking out loud saying this, I think if you think Bitcoin is inevitable, then the only thing you can do to help it is make it happen faster.
Yes.
I like that framing.
Yeah, so start stacking sats, freaks. That's how we make this happen faster.
You don't have to worry about people attacking Bitcoin or protecting Bitcoin. You have to worry about protecting people so they can make Bitcoin happen faster. Like,
right. That's what I mean.
No, I think that's why we're sitting here doing this, and that's one thing about the shitcoiners that pisses me off too. It's like when I started my newsletter and actually tried to nudge myself in the bar stool here to help people like miss the shitcoinery that people naturally fall into. And I talked to a couple of people who are like really deep in Ethereum and stuff like that, and like, oh, you shouldn't be trying to protect people, like let them make their mistakes. And it's like, but I want to, like, I think it's noble. It's something we should be doing.
I also enjoy like the told you so afterwards, but
I mean, would we do anything at all if we didn't have egos? Like,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. It's just trying to keep that ego in check, right? And
Staying humble.
Exactly.
I don't keep repeating it because I guess I'm not projecting. I actually need the reminder myself to stay humble.
self-actualization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been great. John, do you have anything you want to end this on?
No, we should stop because it's been good, and if we keep talking, we're going to make it boring. So,
yeah. But parting note for the freaks, anything you want to announce about what you're working on? Bitrefill, where can we find you?
You can find me as Bitcoin Errorlog on Twitter as well as Telegram. We're probably going to be having a Telegram set up for Bitrefill soon as well, and try to tap into that a little bit. But bitrefill.com, we sell gift cards, we sell mobile top-ups, and we're getting very involved in being basically like a lightning service provider and making products in that area. I think you should keep an eye on us because we have a lot planned, and it's going to start accelerating, and we're going to, in some cases, have a little fun with it, and we're going to try to keep it Bitcoin, and we're going to try to, I'm going to try to do my best to have Bitrefill be a medium for Bitcoin to succeed, to make a circular economy, to help everybody live on crypto, and keep an eye on us because, like, we're going to fuck shit up.
I don't doubt that at all. And thank you again for joining us, and thank you for all you've done helping me learn about Bitcoin throughout the years.
Thank you.
You were that voice that helped me find one of those voices that helped me find sanity in this weird space that we're in.
Yeah, thank you very much, John.
Thanks.
You got anything to say?
Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love, freaks.